Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is the first episode of Jacob Walks Over a Bridge, the pilot, if you will. I'm Jacob. I'm currently walking over a bridge, and this is what my voice sounds like. Now, this is actually the first time I've tried recording myself walking over a bridge. I have no idea how much of this you can actually hear versus how much of this is just traffic you hear. Or the subway that's currently going over my head. That's the fun about the Queensboro Bridge. It just has a lot of stuff going on. You're just thrown right into the middle of it as soon as you walk onto the walkway. You got the 7 trains to the left of me, going away from the bridge. Right over my head would be where the NW trains are going. It's really cool to see them go right over your head. You know, somebody's usually below you because it's the subway, But we like to have fun here on the Queensboro Bridge. This is Jacob Walks Over a Bridge. It's exciting, right? I've been thinking about doing this for a short while, and for about the same amount of time I've had all my fans asking me, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Well, finally doing it. Don't know exactly the format that I'm going to do this in. Yeah, I might do some longer ones, shorter ones. Well, the time to walk over the bridge is roughly 20 plus minutes. I like to time myself when I do these. It's more fun that way. So I think the fastest time I ever walked over the bridge was like 20 minutes and 20 seconds or something like that. I have the whole data set on my work computer. I go through all the fastest times, slowest times, and I've broken it out on which times did I not have music walking over the, just for this whole walk. Did I make a stop somewhere? So I like to keep some careful notes about my commuting habits. So it's interesting that we'd be calling this the pilot episode. This being the first episode in the cockpit, kind of deciding which direction the show takes, or something like that. Or there might be some other reason that TV shows, other forms of media call first episodes the pilot. That's what I always thought it meant. No, I'm sorry. Not always thought what that meant. The first adult TV show I ever really followed after, watching cartoons and other kids shows. That was the N train going by me, if you can't hear that. It's fun times. The first TV show I ever really followed was Lost. My parents were watching it, and I started getting into it by the second season. So when I first started, it was the second season, and before I got any further, I thought maybe I should watch the first season. That would make sense. Especially a show like Lost, just jumping into the second season's not truly advisable. So I forget if it was from the library or from Blockbuster. It was that long ago. I took out the first season on DVD. I was watching it, and when you when you watch TV episodes on DVD, you always pick by what the episode title is. And for Lost, the first episode title was The Pilot, which made complete sense to me because I hope I'm not spoiling anything by describing the first episode of Lost, but the first episode has them looking for the pilot of the plane that crashed. So it made complete sense to me at the time, and maybe I was 12, that the episode would be named Pilot because there they are going to look for the pilot of the plane that crashed. But I don't know, probably a year or so later, maybe 3, when I had a chance to see the name of an episode of another show called The Pilot, I was really confused because it's like, hey, Lost did that. Lost was the first, right? And that episode had nothing to do with pilots or finding a pilot or piloting anything. So that made me very confused for a good while before I came to realize that, that's what all episodes, what all first episodes are. They're the pilot. That was a little bit of a bummer. I thought it made me rethink. Well, I guess that's even, a fun little thing that Lost did was they went and took the name of the first episode and just made it, that's what that episode was about. So that was fun. Lost is probably one of those shows that, molded me, but just inspired some of the creative decisions that I made. It was that first show I was really obsessed with, and that was kind of a big deal for me. Just the way that they deal with character development, throwing curveballs at you, mysteries. It's the perfect way to start out a series. You start with mysteries. You get a whole bunch of people watching. They're so intrigued. Ooh, what happened? Why did that plane crash? X, Y, Z. What's that sound? Keep going. You throw more mysteries in. They're polar bears. They're these creepy other people, smoke monsters. And then you just keep throwing mysteries in. And then eventually you're going to tire out the regular people who watch these shows, just casual fans, the casuals, if you will. And you scare away the casuals, and then you just leave the obsessed, and that's what makes something a cult classic. Not everyone likes it, but you get those few people who are genuinely obsessed with the show, and they're the ones who carry it forward. They're the ones who say, "Oh, you watched Lost." When Lost was airing on TV and you had to watch once a week, ABC would sometimes throw on these fake commercials. There'd be a commercial for the fake airline or for the organization that was on that island in the 70s, things like that. And you really had to be paying attention. You had to go and, like if they had a URL, you had to remember that URL because you couldn't rewind, couldn't pause. And then they would have some sort of advertising, or maybe they would partner with a soda brand or something like that, and then they would some subliminal advertising. This was some viewer interaction before viewer interaction was really a big thing. With smartphones, social media, they didn't have a hashtag Lost on there. You had to. They were trusting people to be watching the show and the commercials very carefully to then, in their free time, probably the next day after writing down the URL, going and saying, "Oh, voila! I see some cool little thing they put together." It was never anything that gave you an answer to Lost. You go to the airline's website, they didn't tell you, "Oh yeah, we found this plane, it crashed because of this. Our CEO is really a talking fish." No, we never did that, but it was always just a fun little thing. And I guess that's kind of going back to what's inspired me to, with my storytelling, just throwing, I'm not obviously, I'm not going to go on Lost level here. They've got some really... the Lost one made some pretty crazy decisions over the course of its time. I don't know if I'm going to, if ever, do it, embark on some crazy storytelling like that. But just the idea of not being afraid to throw curveballs. Leave some things up to interpretation. Not everything, but... you could leave some things up to interpretation. You don't have to give every single answer when you do something, when you tell a story, because otherwise you're not really doing much to the reader. And I'm sorry, but I must note now that, so I've been doing this walk now for it's probably my third year now. I started back it was September 1st, 2016. So this is almost 3 years now that I've been doing this walk over the bridge from 2 separate places in Queens. But, after you do this for a while, you start to see some of the same people going in either direction. There's always this woman who I would pass walking her bike up the incline to Manhattan, who would be, either, I thought initially she was like praying or yodeling, but I think it's more opera. She would just be belting out opera on the side of the bridge. And, all props to her. I always try to walk past her a little quickly because she's kind of creepy. You get a creepy vibe from someone who's just there singing at the top of her lungs, woohoo, something like that. I apologize for that outburst. But then you start to see some of the same people, and when I just passed someone who I'd been seeing for a while. He was wearing a helmet this time. I'll get into that later. But it's this guy who's probably maybe 5'11", 6 foot, with a beard, glasses, and he's sitting there on probably the smallest motor, like little e-bike they sell. So he's just sitting there scrunched up, and he always has such a nasty face, like, oh, I don't want to be doing it, or something like that. His face is scrunched up. It looks like he's gripping the handlebars a little tight, So it's one of those people that's just like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing this guy again. And lo and behold, my first walk of the 2019 spring season, I see him, so I feel blessed. Honestly, I'm sure I'll see other people I know over the course of the next few days, weeks, hopefully months. It'd be nice to be able to do this walk for more than just a couple days. There are some more familiar sights. I'm at the point now, about halfway between Queens and Roosevelt Island. It's a great day to be walking. It's probably in the high 40s. Like when I looked at my weather app this morning, it said it was 41 degrees, but it said it was going to be a high of 61, so it makes it very hard to dress. But it must now probably high 40s, low 50s. I've also been walking for probably 45, 50 minutes, so I'm sure that's warmed me up a little bit too. But it's really just a nice day to be out here and walking. The wind isn't too bad. I say that now, and I'm probably going to be hit by a big burst of wind, just like I was now. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but it's just a really nice day to be out here. And I'm glad that you all can be joining me, whoever's listening to this, whenever you're listening to this. For all I know, this could be the last communication that humanity sends to the other before our imminent destruction, and this could be the last thing that an alien planet finds, translates, and appreciates about our human culture here on planet Earth. So, to all of you who are listening now, thank you. To all of you who are listening from another planet, thank you for listening too. I hope you've paid your respects to planet Earth and to what we accomplished here. It wasn't much, but I think some of us are proud of it. I guess there's also been a bunch of news sites, even just on this first day, things you notice. It's funny, you could stay in the same place for, I don't know, years, and you never really notice anything changing. Things just stay the way they are. You get used to a certain place. You leave for a couple days, you come back, it's like, when did this happen? And I'd say probably the last time I did this bridge walk was on a nice November day last year. So it's been a fair amount of time, and then you just tend to notice certain things, like the gas station on the way to the bridge. They got a new sign. They used to just have like the regular letters that you had to manually go, probably, I don't know if they use a big stick or a ladder, like they had to change them manually, but now they have a nice new electronic price board thing that tells you what the price of gas is. It's an amazing thing, the apartment building complex that was under construction and taking up the the whole sidewalk on that side of the street for better part of like a year and a half. Finally finished. Oh, they're not 100% finished. They still don't have people living in there yet, but they're not taking up the whole sidewalk anymore, which is kind of nice. It gives me another option of a place to walk. Some companies I passed went out of business, like the sign company went out of business, but then there's I think it was like the other half of a car repair shop. Like the windows are boarded up. It looks like there's one window open. It looks like they gutted the place. So a lot of things change in a few months. It's kind of crazy, as much as, you still see the same angry looking guys on tiny bikes. You still have the same, some things stay the same, some things change. And I guess that's really what life is like, You just gotta, hold close to things that don't change and just roll with the punches and the things that do change. So you have to live with. So for those of you who are curious now on my progress over the bridge, I've just about passed over Roosevelt Island, which technically is part of Manhattan. It's under the jurisdiction of Manhattan, but for all intents and purposes, I am now making my final approach into Manhattan proper. I still have to pass over the rest of the East River, but for all intents and purposes, I'm making my final approach. I had not started making the descent yet. That is still to come. The way that this Queensboro Bridge works, for those of you who don't know, which is unfortunate because everyone should know the Queensboro Bridge. It's not just a straight, flat shot. When you're going from Queens to Manhattan, there is a long, steady incline, followed by a place that, just getting up to high enough so I guess that boats can pass under the bridge. And then you have a general flat area. Every time I walk on either direction, I'm always conflicted about, oh no, this is going uphill, no, it's going downhill. But I guess, for all intents and purposes, it's flattish. It's more flat than the actual inclines. But then you get to where I'm about to enter, which is actual descent into the island of Manhattan, which is shorter and steeper. I guess they had a shorter amount of space to get to the same height that Queens did. So I guess it's harder to find Manhattan real estate to build a bridge on. But it's definitely steeper. If you are to bike over the bridge, I'd suggest going from Queens to Manhattan, not the other way around. At least in terms of ease of biking. It doesn't stop people. There are a fair amount of people who bike, both on their own bikes and I don't know if you call it a startup anymore. It's been around for a while now. City bike. You still see people do city bike. For a while, the only city bike location, like a little bike rack that they had in Queens was at the foot of the Queensboro Bridge. So if you could, I guess you either had to take the subway or just walk to get to the Queensboro Bridge, and then after that you were fine. Or if you were trying to bike to Queens, you get to the end of the Queensboro Bridge, great for you, but now what? You can't take your city bike with you everywhere you go. But there's still a lot of people who, it's not as busy as other bridges I've walked across. I do think I've walked across most of the, Manhattan to Queens or Manhattan to Brooklyn bridges. I haven't really done Manhattan to Bronx. I don't know if I'll ever walk across the Whitestone Bridge, Queens, Bronx, but or the Verrazano, going to Staten Island. But I've walked across, I guess now there's the going north to south, or that's a bad decision because I'm going to say this in order, and people who are smarter than I am are going to be looking at maps and say, oh no, he didn't do it right. But what I think is a north-south order. I've done the Triborough Bridge. I've done Queensboro. There's the Williamsburg Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, and the Brooklyn Bridge. So I've done those bridges. I don't know. There's like, tiny little ones. Like there's the one that goes from Greenpoint, Brooklyn to Long Island City, Queens. It's funny because I was just walking over this bridge on Monday. I was considering doing my first episode for that bridge because I thought, I never really, I didn't call this Jacob Walks Over the Queensboro Bridge. I said Jacob Walks Over a bridge. It could be any bridge. And I do hope to have some, what I would call guest appearances by other bridges at some point. I'm sure I will, especially because I'm going to be moving soon. More on that in a later episode, of course. But, the Queensboro Bridge is maybe in the middle when it comes to, maybe towards the bottom half when it comes. I think maybe, like when you go from south to north, that's probably the order of how busy the walkways are. The Triborough Bridge, there are very few people, at least the hours that I walk it, that, I guess it's not really the most common destination for people who are commuting. Especially, and then, the fun thing about the Triborough Bridge is, you get to the apex, you finish your incline, you're at the top, and there's no big fence keeping you from just jumping over. You get a really good view of the river. When the sun sets out, it's real pretty with the bridge, and you don't get a gate in the way to get rid of your Instagram shot. So if you're looking for some great river sunset pics, go to the Triborough Bridge. Just be careful because that walkway is very narrow. It's that, and the no fence is an issue probably. And then you get people who are biking who aren't supposed to be biking because they tell you to walk your bikes, but of course people bike it anyway. So you have to be very careful when you're walking over that one. I only do that when I'm walking back from Randall's Island for softball. But yeah, that one is usually the least busy when it comes to pedestrian and bike traffic. The Queensboro Bridge, I'd say it's modest. You get several people walking. But you could have times where you're just the only person walking for at least 50 yards in either front door behind you. You usually have a consistent number of bikes coming to and fro. Williamsburg Bridge was a fun one because they split up the bike path and the pedestrian path at a point. You start on the bridge, and on the right side of pedestrian, from Manhattan to Williamsburg, the right side is pedestrians, left side is bikes, and then at a certain point they veer off on either side of the bridge. So on the total right side of the bridge, you get the total right side is the pedestrians, total left side are the bikers. They come together at the end, but I think it's fun and much safer, that they split them up. Manhattan Bridge, it's never really that crowded necessarily, but it always plays second fiddle to the bridge that's right next to it, the Brooklyn Bridge, which is hell on earth when you're trying to walk someplace from one borough to the other. I guess it's one of those things that you got to do once and then never again. The bridge is always the most crowded. People are zipping in between. They're stopping for selfies. They're stopping to take pictures wherever in very inopportune places. Definitely my least favorite bridge I've ever walked over. But yeah, I'm nearing what I consider to be the end of the bridge walkway now. Once again, I have no idea what this sounds like. It's been 24 minutes. Wow, time has flown. And that's because I've been having fun. And I hope you had fun too. Haha. So, from myself, Jacob, and the producers of the show, also me, I would like to say good day, good night, and I'll talk to you again soon.